I think what you have seen in the Conservative Party conference is something I've never seen before, because it is a Conservative family and they feel very, very proud and pleased to be Conservatives, and there's a kind of sense of warmth and geniality inside a Conservative conference, except this time a lot of them were very much aware that the people now leading the party weren't really Conservatives as they understand Conservative, they are the radicals.
From broadcast to podcast, they peddle the same old answers. It's always more taxes, more regulation, and more meddling. Wrong, wrong, wrong.
And I think what's happened is that there has been a disjuncture between the way that Liz Truss and the people around her think, which is very, very ideological, very theoretical, unwilling to listen to alternative points of view, and, as it were, the traditional Tory temper. That disjuncture, that break, is really what's going on now and why Liz Truss is having such a hard time controlling her party. It's not that they are natural rebels, it's that they are natural Conservatives, and the way she is behaving at the moment, she isn't.
I have three priorities for our economy: growth, growth, and growth.
What we're seeing now is the consequence of a real confusion about what Brexit was for. There's all those people who were really angry about wage suppression, felt that the elites down in London weren't paying attention to their communities, as it were, the left-wing version of Brexit, the Brexit voters that Boris Johnson then appealed to.
This whole debate is about democracy. Our ability to speak out. And we won't be drowned out, will we?
Put that to one side and think about the Conservative family only. I went around the country filming and talking to a lot of people during the time of the referendum, and particularly in the English counties and home counties, sort of core Tory England, there was a kind of sentimental, nostalgic view of Brexit, that somehow modern Britain had lost its way in the wider world.
This is Britain.
They would like to go back, not quite to 1953 perhaps, but to an earlier idealised Britain where there was more deference, more respect, more order. Perhaps it was a whiter Britain as well, a gentler Britain of imperial measures and so forth. Nigel Farage, if you listen to him carefully at that period, talks about this a lot. He wants a Britain of imperial measures where people respect the monarch more. A golf club, 19th hole Britain in it, that kind of Brexit.
The English have been left behind a bit with all of this and almost been made to feel ashamed of being English, and we shouldn't be.
And I think that is where most Tory voters who were enthusiastic about Brexit really were. I'm caricaturing, I know, but that's where they really were. That kind of nostalgic, gentler version of Brexit. And I think even today a lot of Tory MPs really sign up for that kind of Brexit. But alongside that, there was what I would call the revolutionary Brexit, which was no. Brexit gives us a chance to take a radically different turn, leave the EU, but also leave the sort of social democratic consensus of the 20th century behind and go into a radically different future of the markets roaring ahead in all direction, creative destruction, ceaseless change, ceaseless challenge, and become in many ways more Americanized. Now that's been called the Singapore-on-Thames Brexit.
On the assumption we come out, which may be a rash assumption, but let's assume that's the case, I look for a Singapore on steroids.
Those Brexit revolutionaries over the period since 2016 and the prime ministerships, first of David Cameron, then Theresa May, and then Boris Johnson, and now of course Liz Truss, what's happened bit by bit is the Brexit revolutionaries have defeated and driven out the Brexit nostalgists. So the Brexit revolutionaries are now in charge of the party. I was going to say they are in power, but of course, as we now see, if they don't actually have the votes in the House of Commons, maybe they ain't.
Whenever there's change, there is disruption.
I think the really interesting thing at the moment is not just what happened at the Conservative conference, but what happened at the Labour conference.
The government has lost control of the British economy. And for what? They've crashed the pound.
Because Labour has made a very, I think, quite audacious grab for the centre ground of British public life as well as British politics. And they're talking about the importance of home ownership and secure borders and all of that alongside a more traditional Labour agenda.
I've seen home ownership rise almost my entire life. It's the bedrock of security and aspiration.
And it seems clear, I think, to an awful lot of Tory MPs around that conference and those who were staying away, lots of them were staying away, that the Conservative Party, as it's currently constituted, is doomed. Now, we've got 10 big polling companies in this country. Every single one of them is recording bigger Labour leads than they have ever seen before, ranging from 19 points at the moment to about 33 points. Now, that's going to come down, surely. But that, 33 points means the wipeout, the end of the Conservative Party. That's what Conservatives are looking at. And you can see Starmer becoming visibly more self-confident and self-assured as he thinks it's not that it's over. There's going to be a really hard fight for the next 2 years. And by the way, the traditional mainstream Tory press will turn on Labour and turn on Starmer in a way we've never seen before. We've seen it before. We've seen it even more dramatically, I think, in the couple of years ahead. So this fight is on. It's not over. But I think deep down, a lot of Conservatives and a lot of Labour politicians think they know what's going to happen in the end.